This week I dropped my sunglasses down the toilet yesterday, so these are now going to be referred to as my wee sunglasses. Red herrings and horses and wild goose chases and dogs, or farm animals, some figurative things with animals. You might imagine that the explanation for the etymology or the word history or the phrase history of red herring and wild goose chase is pretty straightforward. You might imagine that you might think, oh, there was a red herring one day and then there was some fake news. Or one day someone chased some geeses and then it was really hard, so they didn't like it, so it turned out to be a waste of everyone's time. I think you'd be about 53% correct. Sorry, I've just realised that I've been doing this whole thing with my sunglasses on, so you cannot see my eyes. Do you remember that advert years ago on British television for the army, and there's a man who's shouting at the camera, and then the guy takes his sunglasses off, and then the man stops shouting because there's eye contact. I've obviously taken that lesson from the army that I didn't ever serve in, and I'm running with it. Anyway, shall we start with the synonyms and definitions of both of those phrases?
A red herring is generally something which is designed to... It's a plot point, or it's a thing that is designed to distract you from the truth of something. Famous examples in movies are, well, the whole plot of The Usual Suspects, probably the whole plot of also Blade Runner 2049, and also definitely Psycho. No spoilers, of course. I mean, all of those films have been out. I mean, one of them's been out for a couple of years, and one of them's been out for, 70 odd years. But go and watch them. They're all three of them are very good films. I've never seen Psycho. In all three of these films, you're led to believe that something in the plot is important or might actually be the truth, when actually, towards the end, it turns out that it isn't. Synonyms for red herring are bluff or ruse or deception or subterfuge, hoax, trick, smokescreen, and of course, wild goose chase. The thing is, wild goose chase has a slightly different meaning. It basically means a hopeless quest. So theoretically, you could send someone on a red herring wild goose chase, but I mean, that figurative soup is probably, it's certainly unpalatable to say. I'm not sure what it would taste like. Conversely, a wild goose chase probably, it isn't always going to be a red herring. The difference being that a wild goose chase isn't always a deliberate act done to somebody, whereas a red herring definitely is something that's done to somebody or used to divert the truth away from something else on purpose. But what about the history? What about that sweet, sweet etymology? There is some debate over this one, and before anybody it seems could reliably record it, red herrings were used to train horses. Red herrings get their name because when you smoke a herring, if you smoke it too much, it actually becomes red, or you smoke it to a certain point, it becomes red. Now, what would happen is that you would get a pack of dogs and you would get a pack of horses with some people on the top of them, much like a hunt is conducted today, which is why there's so much contention over it, because it's a tradition anyway. And someone would drag a smoked herring, a red herring, as a scent trail through, an area of some country posho's land so that they could simulate a hunt. The dogs would then chase after the red herring, or the scent of the red herring, and then the horses, which were in this case either new or freshly broken in or whatever, new to a hunt, would then get the experience of the chaos of what a hunt is actually like. When I say chaos, I mean a bunch of drunk poshos on horses chasing after, using lots of dogs to chase after a very small, largely defenseless animal for miles at a time until it either drops down from exhaustion or it gets pulled limb from limb by some dogs. Tell me that any of those facts are wrong, because all I've done there is state what a hunt is, or what it seems to be. Maybe it's a bit different for you. Interestingly, there is an alternative version of this particular theory about the red herring, and that's the red herring was never used. It was actually a dead cat that was used. They were people of their time. Do you know what I mean? People of their time, or today. Sometimes those people are of today as well. A later, more verified explanation goes back to a journalist in the 19th century by the name of William Cobbett. Cobbett? Cobbett. I'm going with Cobbett. Cobbett once wrote effectively what was a rant in a paper or something. I haven't looked up what the paper was. I'm sure it's not hard to look this up. All of the sources are down below in the description. Cobbett once wrote a rant about what was essentially, for his day and age, fake news, other journalists not doing their job properly or people not paying attention enough. And in that rant, he told an anecdote about being a child where other children and himself as a child would get a red herring and lay a trail for hunts, so that the hunt would be misled away from its prey, away from the foxes, so far away misled, in fact, that they would completely forget where they started. Cobbett was a bit of a hero of mine after hearing that particular anecdote, not necessarily for disrupting a hunt. I accept that some hunts, probably not fox hunting, by the way, because that is, as I've already covered, barbaric. Some hunts actually do have a purpose, i.e. to eat meat or to cull a species or to do something like that. But what amuses me most about Cobbett is that he got so many probably quite powerful people and confused the shit out of them, and that makes him a hero of mine. And wild goose chases, what about those? The apparent first recording of Wild Goose Chase is by that factory of phrases, William of Big Collar, Shakespeare's, in 1592 of all the years. That's the year. It appears in Romeo and Juliet, where Mercutio says, "Nay, if thy wits run the wild goose chase, I have done, for thou hast more of the wild goose." I don't know what this says. William Shakespeare there supplying words for middle-aged men to laugh at in theatres really loudly so that you know that they get the joke. I'm guessing if you have any kind of inquiring mind and you've thought about this particular phrase, you would probably guess that chasing wild geese is probably a fruitless and definitely meatless exercise, so hence the term, right? Turns out a goose chase wasn't actually the act of chasing a goose. It was another thing involving horses. In fact, it was a type of horse race. The rules of the game were simple enough. You would arrange all of the horses and riders into a V shape, much like flying geese, and then whoever was at the back, the aim of the game was to make your way to the front without getting knocked off, while probably knocking off other people, and then maybe they die or something and their families don't eat ever again. People who have nostalgia for that kind of time and those kinds of things, I don't understand them, because, okay, fine, I mean, there's a certain amount of excitement that goes involved, that's involved in things like that, but if you come off and you die, that's it. Welcome to the void. And your poor children, of which only one survived out of 53 that your poor wife has had, are left with nothing. I like the modern world. It's all right, I mean, just ambulances and stuff. So there you go, a rant about the medieval period, and maybe a bit of a go about Shakespeare, and some other things that I thought I knew what I was talking about, and some horses, and some geese, and some herrings, and some geese as well. If you'd like to see another video where I pretend to know what I'm talking about after looking at Google for a while, you can find one just here. And if you would like to see a story or hear a story or watch a story that I've written, then you can just go sort of here. And if you'd like to do a subscribe, you can click on my face. Isn't that nice? Well done.